This is going to be part two of a series where Ryan Pope just said, "Hey, Steve, let's jump on a podcast. I'd love to ask you some good questions." And I really appreciated the conversation. And what started as a conversation ended up almost as a 45-minute conversation. So we broke it up into two sections. The first section was last week. This is the continuation in part two of a series, and it's really, I think it's a lot of fun for me because I don't get asked a whole lot of questions, but being able to tell a little bit about my story and what's most important, and I think these questions we're going through here in the next 20-25 minutes will be impactful for you. I appreciate Ryan for really just saying, "Hey, I'm going to take over the podcast. I'm going to ask you some questions. I want you to share insight and tell your story a lot like you would at a realtor appointment or a new partner appointment where you frog them. It's family, recreation, occupation, goals." And just had some great conversation. Excited for you to hear part two of the interview that Ryan Pope had with me. And we'll see you after this episode. See you.
Well, you seem like obviously a very driven individual, and congratulations on all your success again. Um, I'd love it if you could take your humble hat off for a little bit, stealing from Carl there, but take your humble hat off. You are one of the premier uh, mortgage coaches in the country. And you don't get to that level of success by accident. And so, if you don't mind, take that humble hat off. And what do you think it is about you that makes you so special and great at what you do?
Mm. That's actually an interesting question because I really don't think there's a whole lot that's special. I think, like when you just said that, I thought, I don't know that there's anything special or an advantage. I'm pretty good with words, but I'll tell you something that's interesting, Ryan.
Mhm.
Like, and you know my story, man. Uh, I didn't come from money. We later, I thought we were middle class. Later came to find out we were low, probably I'd say high, low class.
Mm.
My dad was just a hardworking restaurateur. He got out of the military. He was in the Air Force. He was Air Force police. And when he got out of the Air Force, my great uncle owned a chain of restaurants, and my dad just went to work for him. Again, gave him a job, and he worked his way up into management. But here's the deal: management, it's not like it is today. Management meant there was one restaurant manager that opened and closed the restaurant, did the books, was the
Mm.
primary cook. I mean, it was a mess. But he didn't make much, but he was the hardest working person I'd ever seen.
Mhm.
He knew how to show up every day, whether he felt like it or not. And I bet there were many days he didn't.
Mhm.
Part of the flaw was he worked 7 days a week. He'd open up the restaurant at 9, or he'd get in at 9, open it up at 10, and he'd close it down at 9 at night and get home at 10. And he did that 7 days a week. And I don't know if there's anything special, but what I learned from my dad was this work ethic that said feelings don't matter. But what I've learned through coaching, and I'll tell you this, Ryan, it's not the smartest. It's look, I'm a 6 year college dropout. How do you do that? Like, I mean, I can tell you the story. I think it's actually God's providence, because here's what happens: is I was 21 hours away from a double major in marketing and business, and my dad's restaurant was failing, and I chose to go help him try to save his restaurant. And then after that failed, which was another story, I wasn't able to help him save it. I moved to Houston. I've been playing music professionally for a long time, and I decided I wasn't going to do restaurants. I was going to play music and do dabble in real estate.
Mm.
And I got to tell you this: I don't think, it's there. There's nothing special. I think everyone on who's listening, you have a gift, you got a calling, and it's unique like a fingerprint. And I think the difference is, will you wake up every day and steward what God has given you
Mm.
and not compare? Because I'm not like Carl. I'm not like any of the great coaches or leaders in the country. I'm me. And what I have to do is every day look at what God has gifted me in, the ability to communicate, the ability to strategically, it's interesting, like even the numbers. We created the fast action 90-day plan and all of these tactical things. It's not because I'm operating and trying to be something I'm not. Carl's so gifted at sales, and I'm really good and amazingly gifted at strategy. Like I can see 10 steps before most people even see their first step. And I see the patterns behind the steps that are being taken. And then when you watch the data, it proves that that's the right thing that gives you the right results. And so, but listen, everybody's got their own gift. And what I think
Mm,
we try to do is we try to be all things to all people, number one. And then we try to be something that we're not because we see it works for somebody else. Now, here's the difference: what's done doesn't change, because I know 13 conversations with 13 asks gives me 2 relational referrals a day. If I do that over 5 days, it's 10 a week, 40 a month at minimum, closing 8 to 10 transactions a month. That doesn't change. But my flair on what is done
mm,
can change. Why? Because it's who you are. And I think that what's interesting is this: I don't think there's anything special. I think I grew up from humble means. I think I've worked really hard. I've done it a lot the wrong way. And when you get fed up of not having great results, but willing to do the work, then get around people that are further ahead. And I've been very fortunate to have great friends, great colleagues, great mentors. I've had a handful of great coaches. And here, let me speak to this. And I know this is a little bit longer episode. We'll end up breaking it up into two. But Ryan, what's interesting is this: I believe God will bring people in and around your life that are there, that if you lean in, if you're hungry, if you and I'm not saying, look, it's a lot of pressure to say, hey, will you mentor me? However, there's very little pressure when you ask great questions and you're just in
mm,
the proximity of people. In the beginning, when I was young, I'd say, oh, would you mentor me? Most people won't mentor you because that's a weighty ask. But what I
mhm,
realized was, hey, let I'm just going to be at the right place at the right time, and I'm going to always come with great questions. And the more I began to collaborate, the more it's like, wow, I'd take this great idea and that great idea, and I'd listen this great idea, and you put it all together, and it's like, man, even back then, the plan wasn't as clear as it is now. We've got 20 plus years. Carl and I and the team at the Marketing Animals each have, Carl's got 20 plus, I got 20 plus. Now it's even more clear than it's ever been. But man, back then, Ryan, you're still trying to figure it out. And it was like there was no data and there wasn't really a lot of collaboration. There were a handful of people leading from a very one to many perspective. And I think really the secret sauce is you have to understand who you are, what God has called you to do. And I would call it your identity, your unique gifts and talents, and then show up every day in a community of life-giving people moving in the same direction, and be a contributor everywhere that you go. And it's like,
mm,
look, here's the other thing too. I used to be such a perfectionist, and what I've really just learned is it's never perfection, it's always progress. Celebrate the progress, and that way you can begin to realize, hey, you may not be where you want to be. That's okay. Celebrate the journey, but make sure that you're holding yourself accountable to show up every day. And when you
yeah.
don't feel like showing up every day, I love David in the Bible. I was talking to somebody this last week who was really discouraged. And, I was just, they called and we were having a great conversation. And we have to go back to biblical examples. Um, David wasn't encouraged by a lot of people. Like, I didn't see father figures in his life. I didn't see all of these great mentors in his life. He had a prophetic voice, Samuel, but he also, you'll find in the Bible where it says David encouraged himself. David encouraged himself. And I don't think we talk about that enough. You
Mhm,
can have a bad day, but we've got to learn to encourage ourselves. Why? Because there are very few spiritual fathers. There are very few real mentors in your life. There's very few real, like those men and women. Now, I've been blessed. I've had many that I've been able just to over the years have become dear friends, collaborators. And listen, like somebody who really speaks into you or really can help you get unstuck in finances may not be the same one who can help you in your marriage or in raising kids. I used to think I'm looking for one. No, brother, I'm looking for resources that in that season help me advance in that area of life. And one thing that I would encourage you as well, wake up every day and ask yourself, what territory am I taking today?
Mm.
What territory am I taking? Hey there, if you're loving the tips so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you never miss out on more cool free tips coming your way. I'd also love to hear from you. Make sure to drop a comment below and let me know what you think, or what it is you want to see next. And we'll see you on the inside. See you. Here's something interesting, Ryan. Um, a dear friend of mine, I'll never forget, I was exhausted, had a great mentor. His name was Ron. I'd meet with him every other week. We'd do lunch on Fridays, every other Friday. We did it for like 10 years. And I'll never forget one day I'm just exhausted and we'd go to this great little barbecue restaurant. And I said, dude, why can't we just coast? Why can't I just coast through this? And he said, son, because he was, I don't know, 40 years older than I was. And he'd say, son, the world isn't on a level playing field. It's always uphill. The
Mm.
day you coast is the day you lose ground. And it wasn't what I wanted to hear, but he was 100% right. The day you coast in trying to raise your kids and help them develop their character, the day you coast in putting towards effort to have a great marriage, the day we coast in our business and say, "Oh, I don't think I'm going to do it. I don't feel like it today."
Mm.
You'll get away with one day, but you won't get away with two or three or four. You may get away with 1 week. You won't get away with 2 weeks.
Mm.
And that's where I think the roller coaster happens, is because it's like, I can do it. And it's like, oh, I get so discouraged. I'm not seeing the results. Well, you're not going to see results for 90 days, Ryan. Problem is, everybody wants instant results. There's no instant results in this business. And then you start and you stop and you start and you stop. And the truth is this, you just got to resolve for 1 year. Every day, 5 days a week, I'm going to show up. I'm going to have 13 conversations, ask for the business 13 times. I'm going to get 2 relational referrals. Even if I don't get it my first 90 days, I will get it. Why? Because Steve told me the math proves that, which it does. It's just, will you do it long enough to get good enough at it? And so my encouragement to everybody is just keep pushing. Don't stop. When you don't feel like it, you either resolve to be in this business or don't. That's it.
Mm.
So, but there's
Awesome.
nothing special, man. Everybody's got a gift. The greatest gift is showing up. That's it.
And where do you think your desire to continue to show up came from?
Where, say it again.
Where do you think that your desire to continue to show up on the hard days, on the days you don't feel like it, where do you think that resolve came from?
Um, well, I'll tell you where it comes from. My calendar.
Mm.
Um, it comes from, I mean, my why is already settled. If I don't show up, it affects my family, my kids. Look, you could get into the why and all that. And really for me, the greatest deal is number one, it's purpose. It's what I was made to do.
Mhm.
Number two, that this industry has given my family a tremendous amount of freedom. And those are some of the whys, making a difference. But if I'm just real practical, you know why? Because it was on my calendar. If
Yeah.
I'm real candid with you this morning, and let me just be vulnerable and I'll share this. And I know this, we'll definitely break this up into 2 episodes. But Ryan, I know you texted me yesterday and you're like, hey, bro, we're doing the podcast. And I'm like, yes, we're doing the podcast. But let me just tell you this, I've been on vacation for a week. We've been out on the boat, got me some sun, was,
Mm.
hanging out on the patio with the family yesterday. I didn't want to show up to do the podcast. You know what told me to show up and do it?
Calendar.
That's it. And you know what tells me my next 10 appointments right after this? My calendar. And
Calendar.
and we try to make it so complicated, but for me, I've taken the emotion out because look, if every one of us are candid, how many days in the week do you feel like it? Some days you do, some days you don't. Some days you're fighting battles, some days you're winning battles. Some days and the only way I found personally to take the emotion out was I just live very scheduled. Um, and in the beginning, I know it's so crazy because I'm a high ID in the DISC assessment, and I used to feel like restraint. But like in week number 4 of the 8-week boot camp, we go through this in great detail because what I've realized is the more calendared I am, actually, the more freedom I have.
Mm,
because I can look and make sure that every 15 minutes of every day is either tactical enough to bring in the business that I'm looking for or not tactical enough. And now it's just a truth serum. So, Ryan, what I get to do is look at it and say, oh, I can't lie to myself anymore. You know what I mean?
sure.
It's like I either did it or I didn't, and the calendar will tell the tale. So,
Cool. Hey, what you've mentioned a few things you've had to overcome throughout this interview. But if you had to choose one, professional or personal, what would you say is your biggest struggle you've had to overcome to get to your level of success today?
oh, myself. I
Break that
I
down for
think,
us.
huh?
Break that down for us.
Well, I think, what I've been talking about this whole time isn't like it's not hypothetical. I think the biggest challenge we face every day is ourself and the belief in ourself.
Mm,
What comes to mind is, and I don't remember who said it. I think it was, man, it may have been, I don't know, somebody like Benjamin Franklin or Albert Einstein. He said, if you were aware of what you're actually capable of, you'd shock yourself. And
mm,
that's not verbatim, but it's something along
yeah.
those lines. And I think the biggest obstacle each and every one of us have every day is the belief that you can. And I think everybody has that little, Carl calls it little guy on your shoulder.
Mm,
But here's what happens is your past experiences frame future expectations. And what we, I think the greatest gift is what you have the potential to become. But the greatest hurdle is overcoming the limiting beliefs that you've heard growing up or that you've experienced in your life. And
mm,
that's why I think it's so powerful to have people in and around your life that are, and listen, there's not a lot of friends like this, but there are people that'll call you out on the carpet and say, hey, you're not showing up. I didn't, um, I'm seeing this in what you're doing, and here's the results. It just goes back to this. That's why coaching is so important. I do coaching. I pay for a counselor. Like Ethan and I and our family, we're doing counseling right now. We've been doing counseling for 25 years. 2 years before I got married, Steph and I started counseling. And we've been doing counseling for 25 years. And I think your biggest challenge to overcome is yourself, and the
mm.
biggest opportunity is yourself. And
Love that.
and and I think that what we have to do is we've got to just continue to get healthy, got to continue to find out what are the limiting beliefs, and then people in and around our lives. Pay people around you, man. I've had recruiting coaches, I've had mortgage coaches, I've had business coaches, I've got counselor. There's every season of life, I've got somebody who's further ahead that I'm paying and saying, help me see the blind spots. What am I missing? That you're vulnerable, you're transparent, the struggles, the wins, the successes. I think your spouse, I think your family.
Mm.
So I think for us, we've got to just keep in an environment that's moving in the right direction, getting better, and making progress.
Awesome. And I love to end, and I always end with, man, please tell me, what are you most grateful for right now?
Man, hmm. I got to tell you this. I'm most grateful for the opportunity we have every day. Every day is a new canvas. I'm so grateful for, yeah, the people in my life, the
Mm,
family that I have, our kids. I love the network that we're building and a part
mm.
of. So there, that's a great question because there's a lot, and I
Yeah.
think there's health, there's um, freedom, opportunity, the opportunity to every day. Here's what I love. If you don't like where you're at, you get to choose.
Mm.
You choose and you get the opportunity each and every day to make it new. You don't like it, don't be stuck. You don't like where you're at, change it. You've got the ability to do that. And so that's what I'm grateful for is every day is a new masterpiece, man. So,
Awesome. Well,
hey, and
Steve,
listen,
thank
let
you,
me let
man.
me well let me say this too. If you feel like you're stuck and you want help, go to freedomplanningcall.com. Fill out a couple of pieces of information. The team will you'll pick a time on the calendar. We'll walk you through it. We'll give you a plan. We'll give you what's helping loan officers. We'll help you break it down. I've talked to you and learn more about the 8 week boot camp. I'd love to help you with that. That's been a just a passion project for now a little over a year. We've had hundreds and hundreds of loan officers go through it and just seeing significant results. So go to freedomplanningcall.com. So, Ryan, you wrap us up, man.
Yeah, well, hey, thank you so much for your vulnerability today, Steve, for showing up,
Yeah, man.
letting us get to know you a little bit more. And hopefully this was helpful for some of your listeners just in finding, watching a conversation move forward and
Yeah.
learning to kind of bring it back or drive it different places with different
Yeah.
questions and getting somebody to open up. So thank you for your
Dude, I love it,
vulnerability.
man. I know it's hardly hard to believe it's been almost an hour. Yeah, we're definitely going to have to break this one up. So great questions. Thank you for that. And anything else you want to wrap up or end with?
No, man, anything worth doing is worth doing badly. Just get started.
Man, I love it. All right. Hey, everybody, make sure you like, share, subscribe to the podcast. If this has been helpful, share it with another loan officer. We certainly I appreciate you being a part of the journey and being a part of my tribe. And so grateful. Just stay, connected. I'll tell you this, I've got some really good content and things that I know will be helping you coming out here in the next several weeks. I've spent a lot of time just masterminding what this quarter is going to look like as far as value. I want to say thank you for being a part of the community and look forward to seeing you on the other side. See you.